Hello, Connection friends. We are so happy to be here with you on this beautiful Wednesday for an interview. We have my good friend, Cheri Hudson Passey, here to talk with us. Hello, Cheri.
Hi, it's so good to see you. It's been a while. It's been since last RootsTech, right?
Yes.
Well, the one before RootsTech Connect. We're talking last year's, RootsTech. So
it's so true. It's so good to see you. Now, I'm going to tell everybody a tiny bit about you, and then I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I don't know how you fit everything into a bio. Cheri has so many cool experiences, and I'm going to let her share those about herself. But she is a professional genealogist, an instructor, a writer, and also the owner of Carolina Girl Genealogy. And a very fun thing about her is she is the host of the genealogy chat show GenFriends on YouTube. Now, if you watch Relative Race on BYU TV, Cheri and I are both huge fans, and right?
Yes, huge fans, stalkerish kind of fan.
Yes, we love to tweet about it. Cheri talks about it on GenFriends. I noticed, and I think it was just today, a new episode went up talking with one of the lead researchers, right?
Yes.
From Ancestry.
Right, we had Tristan Tolman come on. She's fabulous. So she was telling us some of those little secrets about how she gets the families connected.
Yeah, it was so fun. So we're going to pop some links in so you can go check out GenFriends and her website. You definitely want to go and listen to those. So
thank you.
I am going to let you tell us a little bit more about yourself. I gave the basics. We want to know more about you.
Okay, well, I do own Carolina Girl Genealogy. I've done that for about, we're getting close to 10 years. I just decided, hey, maybe I could do this professionally. Let's see what happens. I started blogging about my family, and it's just kind of exploded into something I didn't realize it was going to become. So I live in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I am a Carolina girl, although you can't tell that in my voice because my dad was in the Air Force, and so we lived everywhere. So I don't have that Southern accent. So people will look at me weird sometimes when I say that I'm a Carolina girl. I research for clients. I write for magazine articles, the blog post, and like I said, originally just to get family connections. One of the things that I really love doing, besides GenFriends, which is so much fun, and it's not just about relative race. We have people come on from all over the genealogy world and just pick their brains and talk to them. It's just very low key, laid back kind of thing. And sometimes you catch us laughing as we come on because we've got funny panelists too. So they'll be making cracking jokes before we start. So anyway, but one of the other big things that I really love to do is I do repatriation work for the U.S. Army, meaning I am subcontracted through a group that gets cases from the Army, and I have to look for living family members for our missing soldiers. And then I got to find them, and I've got to call them and see if they will help with the repatriation work, which is basically, I don't need genealogy from them. What I need is their DNA. I need their spit. The Army needs their spit. So they can identify these soldiers and bring them home. So I think over the last few years, that has really been one of the most rewarding things that I've been privileged to be able to do.
Mm-hmm. What an amazing project. That sounds incredible, and what a great practical application of genealogy.
Right.
Reuniting people, or reuniting like the history. That's amazing. And I want to dive even deeper into that in a little bit.
Okay.
But you said you have you started the blog about 10 years ago. But I have a feeling your roots go even deeper into genealogy than that.
Yeah.
You're a leader, right? What got you started? Where did your love of genealogy begin? And how did you decide to become a professional genealogist and get involved in all of these things?
where I started, it's kind of hard, but I do know, and I've told people this story before, there's one story that just really sticks out. I feel like I've always been interested in listening to what people were saying, you know, almost the gossipy sit in the corner and Aunt so-and-so was this, and, you know, Grandpa this was that, you know what I mean? Listening to those kind of things. But my mother's father died in World War II when she was 3 years old. So she never knew him. And I remember being, maybe 10 or 11 and asking her, why do we call Grandma Grandma, but why do we call this man that she's married to Frank instead of Grandpa? And it's really because she had remarried. And that is really the first time that I guess I understood the story. And just looking at her going, her dad died. I was like, oh, your dad died. I mean, not that I didn't want Frank there, but it was just, that's when it really hit me. And then I started asking about stories and finding out more about him. And that just led, as I got older, to wanting to know more and more stories. And then I started writing people because I wanted to build that tree. I started writing everybody. And, you know, the old way people, we used to have to write to people to get stuff. So I wrote out a lot of letters and was very fortunate to receive a lot of things from each of my family lines. I had a great aunt who was the genealogist in that line, and she sent me all these things that she had. And I've been able to collect letters. I just got a new one this past week that my grandfather had written to his parents, probably the last one from the war. It was dated the end of August, and he died in September. So, and we thought we had them all, and we went to visit the home that his parents lived in after they built it after he had died, but they'd kept all these letters, and we got that one. So I think it's just, you know, you just start, they just start nagging on you too. You know, it's an addiction.
Well, I understand. And I love that. It sounds like those, you know, learning about your grandpa when you were young, like those seeds are kind of planted there. Oh, yeah. And I love that it's just continued until you said just recently you found that last letter, and I got tingles when you mentioned
that was, literally it was last Friday. It was Friday. We went up to visit my mom's aunt. Still lives in the home. Cousin still lives in the home. She took care of her elderly aunts. So my mom's elderly aunts as well until they died. They never married. So she moved into her grandparents' house when she was 13 and just stayed. So she still lives there.
That's good.
And they never threw anything away. And so unfortunately, my grandmother did get rid of all the letters he had written her when she remarried. And so for my mom to be able to get these things about her father, it's just been an amazing thing. So yeah, literally last Friday, she gave us another letter that she'd found. So. I
love that. And seeing his handwriting and the timing. I love that so much. Well, I was going to ask you more about your work with the U.S. Army later, but I feel like this is a good segue. So we're just going to dive into it now.
Sure. Yeah.
So did this experience with your grandfather who died in World War II, did that kind of help inspire you with this project that you're doing with the U.S. Army?
Well, what happened was, out of the blue, I got a phone call. And at first I didn't know if it was legitimate. Somebody calling to ask me if I'd be willing to talk to him about getting on this team. And they had found me through APG, places that, you know, post that I do professional work, you know, so they were just looking through there. And once I found out that it was real, I really wanted to do this, not only because my father was military, just generations back, both grandfathers military. We actually have a soldier in our family who has not been recovered. And that is my mom's father's brother. As a matter of fact, the three of those boys all died just within months of each other. And so there's historical things up in their hometown and a road named after him and things like that. But his body was never found. His plane went down and they never found his body. And so I thought to myself, wouldn't this be an interesting genealogy serendipity? Is if I help these other families find their missing soldiers, maybe by some stroke of luck, they'll find his plane and be trying to identify those bodies. So it had something to do with it, really did. And so I've just loved it. And I think my favorite thing of it is I was able to contact a soldier's daughter who was planning her 86th birthday party the day that I called her. Now, we can't tell them that we found a body. I don't know. They don't tell me this. Sometimes they're just preparing to get enough DNA in so that when they go into an area, they can start identifying bodies. So all I can say is if you will, donate your DNA, it will help either rule in or rule out our soldiers. But she was just thrilled. She said, what a wonderful birthday party, a birthday present to be able to even, help out with this. So that was my favorite person I think I've been able to call.
Oh, I love that. I had a question. Camille has a question for us. Kind of goes along with it. Have you researched your grandfather's military service?
I have. As a matter of fact, they tell you just, you get these family stories, but then you've got to research them. My mom, all her life, was told, and war, they're trying to tell people the facts that they think they have at the time, but she was always told that he died on the island of Peleliu. And he didn't die in that first wave of soldiers that came in. So many did, but he was there for 3 or 4 days before he died. She was told that he was killed by a hand grenade. But when I got all of his paperwork, it was a shotgun. He was shot. And so that was really interesting because all her life she just felt like, well, if it was a hand grenade, there's probably not much left of him when they sent him home, but it's just to get the full story. So yeah, I have. And you know what? I got more pictures because she doesn't have a lot of pictures. So there were pictures in there, in his military file. So I would encourage anybody, even if you think you know the story, keep digging into those military files and see what else you can find to add more to their story.
And that's wonderful. That actually goes right along with what we were teaching with our genealogy boot camp. You hear these stories and you've got to put, you've got to fill in those details. And
exactly. Because sometimes they're right, but sometimes they're not quite right.
Yeah. There's so many blanks you can fill in and add in. I love that so much. So many fascinating stories. We're going to back up a tiny bit to, I mentioned we just did our genealogy boot camp, which is, all about digging into records and finding the truth of these stories. And we also just had RootsTech, which I know you participated in as an ambassador and a presenter. Now you've attended RootsTech for years, right?
I have for the last several years. I think the first one I actually went to was 2015. So I'm not like some people who can say, I was there for everyone or whatever, but yeah, I've been and I live so far away. It's a long way to travel, but I decided I'm going to do it. So I've been doing it.
Well, I'm so glad you did and do, because I've loved meeting with you and talking with you and hearing about your passion for genealogy. What advice do you have for people who have been watching RootsTech classes? What advice do you have for them for taking what they've learned and applying them?
Okay, well, first of all, look at that syllabus. Hopefully, whichever class that you took, the presenter put a syllabus up there. And just really, as you're going through the class, I always have the syllabus, and then I always have a notepad next to me, and I'm thinking about how this is going to apply to my research. And I have found that I get these little light bulb moments going off, go do this for this person, go do that for that person, and then really take it and apply it. I think sometimes we do kind of sit and we listen, and then we go home, and then we just, it just sits there on the shelf. But I really do think if you listen to the presentations in a thought process of how is this going to help me with my research, and let those thoughts come to your mind, it really will help you do it. And also I want to tell people that don't just watch classes that, okay, I don't have any Polish ancestors, so I'm not going to watch that one. You never know what you're going to learn that will apply. People have various techniques, no matter what type of research they're doing, that you could say, oh my gosh, I never thought to do it that way. And I would not have realized that if I had not watched this off the wall thing that I didn't think I would need. There's a well-known genealogist who said that once she decided just to sit in a room, a conference, and just listen to whoever spoke. It didn't matter.
Oh, wow.
And she said she came away and she learned so much because she wasn't in that box of, this is what I need. It was like, what am I going to learn today from this speaker that can apply to my research? And she said it was the best conference she ever had. So try that. And don't think to yourself, oh, this is a beginner class. I don't need a beginner class. You can learn from any class that you go to because we're all unique in the way we research, and people have different thought processes that you might have never even, that little light bulb didn't go off that maybe you could do something this way. So just learn. Just take the opportunity to learn all that you can.
I love that. I love that so much because I hadn't processed it that way yet. That and now I'm really thinking like, oh, I need to check out all the RootsTech classes. And
I know, it's so hard.
broaden it a bit more. So I love that, to keep in mind who you're researching and just be open to whatever they have to say. I love that so much. And then speaking of RootsTech classes, we'd love to hear, I know you had 3 classes in a series. We'd love to hear about what you taught. What did you teach?
Well, for the last few years, I have been doing a couple of programs on helping people who have discovered that they've got slaveholding ancestors, because that can be kind of a shock kind of thing. And where do you take that and do we hide it? And so they let me I was privileged to be able to do a class on that. These were hard because we had to cut them down to 20 minutes. And normally when we do a presentation, it's a good 45 minutes and you're trying to hurry up and then you've got questions. So it was really hard to cut them down. So, take a look at these. And then if you want more, get hold of the person that presented and see if they can come present again to your society so you can get the full. This is kind of a little taste of what people are doing. So I did Discovering, I got to read my titles, Discovering the Records of the Enslaved, which I did with Sharon Gillis, who is the descendant of enslaved people, and then I am the descendant of enslavers. And so we actually did a panel discussion, which is hard. 20 minutes hard. We need to we talk too much. Anyhow, we talked about how we can work together and how we can overcome those emotions and the problems and the obstacles that get in the way. That if we can talk to each other, we've each got records to share about the other's family. And so we did that one. And then I did my single one, talking to people, just discovering discovering slave owners in your family tree, because that's hard. So it's just, what do you do? What do you do when you find that? And then the third one that I was able to do was analyzing probate records, talking about how just because you can't find that will, sometimes those probate records are even better than a will. They can give you so much more information, because if there was not a will, they had to fill out so much more paperwork and they had to do so many more things. And so even if there is a will, if they did an inventory or if they did, any of those other kind of things, there's so much you can learn about your ancestors. So I did one on wills as well. And that was really fun. And another thing I was going to say is, if you watch a class, email. If you've got questions, email the presenter. I have been thrilled getting the emails that I know people actually watched because they've sent me an email, right?
Yeah, right.
Asking questions. And so that has been really thrilling. So don't hesitate to reach out. It might take a while, for people to get back to you, but they will, they will. So do that. Watch, write notes, and send a message back. Those are my tips.
Yeah, I love that as a next step, because sometimes we think like, okay, RootsTech, it's done, or I watched the class, and we don't realize like, oh wait, there's more. These are real people who may be excited to talk with you via.
Exactly. And like I said, there is more. We had to cram these into, like I said, the little 20-minute. And so you may have an opportunity to have one of us come and talk at your society or something like that, and broaden that so that you learn even more. So there's lots of different things you can take. This is a good, I think it was a good way to introduce people that maybe have never been to a conference too before, as to kind of what it's all about and the things that you can learn. So I'm excited they did it this way.
Yeah. Well, it's so fun that we have access to it all year, and we can kind of go deeper into things. I know for our experiment, like we very, very briefly touched on like probate records. So your class would be the perfect opportunity for someone to be like, wait, I want to learn a little bit more. That looked interesting.
And remember, it's free. Remember, they're free.
Yeah, you can just hop right on and learn a little bit more. I found my, let's see, it was like a great-great-grandfather's signature
Oh, yeah.
in a probate record. And I just loved it. I didn't have a photo. I don't have much from him at all, but I had a signature. So that was
That's great.
really fun.
Those signatures are so cool. Not only can they help you know that this is the same person, but I know somebody who actually made a signature quilt. She took copies of all the signatures of her ancestors and made a quilt out of, put them on the different squares. So very cool.
I love that. I've heard of that for photos, but now my wheels are turning.
Yes.
And we're actually doing, our theme for next month is the gift of connection, and a signature would be amazing. We've got another great question that I loved here from, well, and you've covered this a little bit, but she wants to know how you personally get the most out of a conference, like tips and tricks. Do you have anything to add from what you've already said?
When I'm speaking at a conference and being an ambassador, it's kind of difficult. I feel like I don't get the most out of it, but I make sure I get the syllabus. I make sure I get to the key classes that I want to go to, because I'm there to teach and to network and things like that. But if I'm going to a conference where I'm not speaking, which is a lot, I don't speak a lot, I make sure that I register for the conference. I make sure I make a list of the top classes that I want to go to, and keep those notes like I was talking about. Just, what is this triggering me? It could be something that's totally off topic, but something that they said made me think of something I want to do. And then sometimes with those classes, I end up changing my schedule because my mind is now going a different way. So be really flexible. And, when I'm at a conference too, if I sit there, I'm not one of those who'll just leave a conference lecture because I go, oh, this is not quite what I wanted to listen to. They'll say something, and then you'll see people leaving, and they'll go out the hall, and they'll go someplace else. I personally don't do that because I didn't want people leaving when I was giving a talk. But I found that even if I stay, if it wasn't quite the lecture that I thought it was going to be, I still learned something. So I'm not where I'm writing down everything the person says. I'm not taking those kind of notes. The kind of notes I'm taking is the thoughts that come into my mind about what I could use, how I could use the information they're giving me, not a word for word. And you do see people typing word for word, and everybody has to do what helps them learn. So if that's what helps you learn, then you just type that word for word. But for me, I learn better if I'm just those light bulb moments. That's what I'm writing down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so helpful. The light bulb moments, what inspires you, and how can it be tied to what you're doing? I like that a lot. Now you're a part of a lot of different societies, and you do go to many conferences and teach and present at many conferences. A lot of our audience, they're kind of newbies, they're beginners. We've done RootsTech. What are your favorite conferences? Or what ones would you recommend for both like beginners and then maybe for those who've been doing genealogy for a while? Are there one or two in each category that you would recommend?
Well, as far as conferences go for beginners, RootsTech is probably one of the best because they do have a lot of the beginning classes for you to take. I would also look into what your local area is doing, what classes are being taught. Do you have a genealogical society that has classes? Ours does down here at Myrtle Beach. We have the Grand Strand Genealogy Club. We're not even a society, we're a club, but that's okay. We have presentations once a month, and we bring in top named speakers via Zoom, or local people will come and talk. So get involved with whatever's going on locally. Check out the societies in the states or the countries where you're researching to see what they have to offer. And that will help you learn about those specific areas and how to research. So for beginners, I would start. And I would look at the other major conferences too, because sometimes they will have more of, some beginner classes as well. So just look at what they have to offer, and don't get intimidated because something may not say beginner. You just go and see what you can learn.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fantastic advice, and it's good to know that there are local societies, and I've just barely started joining like even Facebook pages and different
Oh, yeah.
historical societies around the country.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what if they post a picture of my ancestor? I want to see that. So
absolutely, and you post pictures there too. I found one off of eBay several years ago. I happened to get some eBay. If anything genealogy comes up, I grabbed a picture. It wasn't my ancestor. It had a name on it. I thought, I'm going to find this person. And I was able to reunite this photo back to the family it belonged to. So just because I posted on the Facebook page for the county. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I bet they were thrilled to get that.
They were thrilled. And then we found out we are connected because it was a little small town. This person wasn't my ancestor, but as we went back several more generations, we were connected.
Oh, I love that. And that's such a fun thing, is being able to find those connections and see where you're connected. That's so awesome. Camille asked, why should we join a society? And I think we covered that a little bit. It's leaving those breadcrumbs, right?
Exactly. And especially those, do your local ones, because they're having local programming, and you can join into any kind of activities. They may be photographing a cemetery or something like that, and use your skills to help them out, but also join the ones for where your ancestors used to live, because if you need to ask a question, and they're the ones that know the dirt on the town, right? They're the ones that know how to get you to the local person who knows everything. So that's one of the main reasons to join the societies, and to keep them thriving, because so many of them are doing those kind of projects and things where they're helping to digitize and things like that. So it doesn't have to be, don't think to yourself, well, I live in Horry County. I don't have a single ancestor in Horry County. They're all over the rest of South Carolina, but nobody in Horry County. But I still belong to our genealogy club, because I can give to them and they can give back to me. So join it, even if you don't have any ancestors there.
Yeah. I'm excited. I haven't dabbled in that yet. I've just kind of been on the fringes of it, but I think I'm going to jump in now. We had another question. Michelle just asked, this was back to our beginning conversation. She said, you said to make sure to get your DNA tested while adding it to any DNA service work in order to be found, or is it better to add to a specific one? I still have a missing military record too. So
as far as military goes, the Army has their own database. So that's why they ask me to find, because I'll have people say, well, I've already tested on, like Ancestry. Do I need to do it again? Yeah, because the Army can't get into Ancestry. They have their own pool. They have their own paperwork you sign. It says, they're not going to use it anywhere else. But as far as the missing soldiers goes, if somebody calls you, that's what they want. They want your DNA for that. As far as regular DNA, put it everywhere. Put it everywhere. A lot of the sites will let you download your raw DNA and then upload it to other sites, sometimes for free, sometimes for a small cost, but you don't know where your relatives or your cousins and you don't know where they might see a MyHeritage ad and do it there, and you're on Ancestry. Well, you're never going to connect. So they may decide to do it on 23andMe and you're on MyHeritage. I mean, so I take advantage, especially the free upload times that they have. And so I've got my DNA out there everywhere.
That's awesome. That's good to know too. I have Ancestry and MyHeritage, but I might need to be looking at that one. It's 123. Is it 123 DNA? Is that the other one?
It's 23andMe.
23andMe, yeah.
23andMe, has it. Yeah. So, everywhere you can find, upload it, because you get more. And the same thing with your family trees. Make a GenCom copy of that thing and put it everywhere, just because you don't know where people are going to put their family trees, so you can get those hints that come. You just don't know. It's like, don't fish only in one pond. Put it out there everywhere, because it's all about cousin connections, all about finding family.
Well, I love that. And I feel like that ties into the rest of the advice as well, like with the different genealogy societies and the conferences. I think that's,
put it out there everywhere. And if you can put a blog, if you can create a blog, which is easy peasy, it's so easy. I started mine on Blogger years ago, and I know there's probably other sites that might be. I don't know if they're better. I don't have time for that. I don't want to. I don't want to change it. But I started it for family connections, and I get people contact me all the time because I've written about an ancestor, and it just gets out there on Google. And when they go to search, right, for an ancestor and use old Google, my blog site will come up, and so they connect that way. So create a blog. It's easy. Yeah. It's easy. You hit publish is scary, but after that, you're all good.
Well, and that's such a fun next step as well. So like if people have been working on a family story and adding details to it, why not put it on a blog post?
Exactly.
And get it out there.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. Helps people find you. Yeah. I always say, write it, they will come.
Yes.
Write it, publish it. You got to hit publish and they will come.
Maybe write it and publish it.
It could be 10 years later, but somebody will be looking for those ancestors and connect with you because of your blog.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so fun. Let's see. Yeah, we have a couple more questions. Should I test my DNA if my mom and dad have done theirs? What do you think about that?
I know that if your mom and dad, I did mine just because I wanted to do it. You know, if your mom and dad's is on there, I guess the only thing that, well, you know, if your mom turns out not to be your biological mom, and your dad turns out not to be your biological, you know, dad, that could be an issue. Make sure if you test anybody, you know the consequences of anything that might happen. I did it, and I tested my mom and my dad and my brother, which let me tell you was so funny. For those of you that know anything about DNA, he's like, why should I do that? You've already tested yours. It's going to be the same. We're siblings. And his wife finally just said, just spit for her. Stop arguing with her. Just do it. And so of course we're the same, but we're different. So he pulls in, you know, lines that I don't have in mine. And I've got stuff in mine that he doesn't have in his, but we are siblings, we are biological siblings. So, you know, I know that this has been asked a lot of time to your big, you know, DNA people that you hear speak. And I've heard them say, well, you know, if you want to do it, do it. If it's a money issue and you don't want to, you know, you've only got so much money to spend on a kit, you may not want to spend it on yourself if you've already done your mom and your dad. You know, maybe go up to the oldest living relative, which really is your priority, is to get them before they pass away. I wish DNA test had been out before my grandparents died, because they would have spit whether they wanted to or not. So I would have. So it's all about, I mean, if you want to do it, do it. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to give you more connections and things like that. So, because you're going to be a recombination of your parents. And so I don't know that it's necessary, but it can still be fun. Just to see what turns out for you versus what turns out for them. And I can tell you that I have some African American DNA, very small amount, that now, because I've done myself and both parents, I know it comes from my mom's line, and I'm trying to pinpoint that to see how many generations back. There's nothing in the paperwork, and that's another reason I've been so into doing the African American lectures too, about finding that DNA and finding those records that have the enslaved information that's hard to find. But we need to get the message out that there are people in here whose names need to be said again. So anyway, so I don't know if that helped to answer that question or not. I think it's really up to you, because you've already got your moms and you've already got your dads. So
I think that's great. And I love what you just said about how you have questions from your own ancestry and what you noticed in your own DNA. And I love how that it kind of like spills over into your professional and your research, and how it kind of I guess with family history, it's all connected.
Yeah, exactly. It's we're all connected, and I find that the more that we do DNA, we see that we are all connected. You know, that we're not as far apart as we think we are. We're just one big family, and we need to accept each other as one big family, and do what we can to help each other find those pieces that they're missing. So.
And that's wonderful. And you do so well at that with your connections through societies. And I know we were able to slide you in today. You have classes today, right?
I do. It's like there's always something going on. But it was a privilege to be able to come and talk to you. I appreciate you asking me.
Yeah, well, and I love seeing how everything comes together, all these different parts of your research and what you're working on and what you're sharing and receiving. It's really cool to see. For one of our last questions, we talk a lot about the psychological benefits of doing genealogy work as part of our experiment. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, have you noticed what psychological benefits have you noticed from your own research or from helping others with their research as well?
Well, I think that a lot of times as we're researching, whether the family that we're researching is biological, adoptive, whatever, we have traits from either, from biology or from the people who raised us. And one of the things that's helped me specifically as you look back and you see that you're going through some of the same things that they did is to gain from their strength. And one of the most poignant times for me was when my son passed away. And I remember distinctly thinking, how many blog posts have I written and how many children have I added to my family tree, these young children? And thinking about my grandmother that I was talking about, whose boys died in the war. She had 3 boys die in the war, but she had previously before that lost 3 babies. So of her 12 children, she'd had to bury 3 of them, and so my thought process was she continued on. They all continued on. They all found it somehow within themselves to move on and to be able to honor those that had passed away, but to be able to move on. And so I remember distinctly feeling that as I was going through that. And so I think a lot of times that we can learn great lessons from our ancestors. We can see where they get their strength. Sometimes we find out that we all play the same musical instrument. It's just amazing. Or, we'll find out that we have an interest in this area and we find out that an ancestor did too, that we knew nothing about. So I think that at times we can feel that they're there and they're supporting us as we do this work. And so I think it's a great boon to know who you are and where you came from. And I mean that in both, because I do have biological children and I have children that are adopted. And so both lines are just as important, whether it's your biological line or your line that you were adopted into. They're both important in making you who you are today. And so I think that really gives us a sense of a good foundation as we learn who they were, who we are, and the lessons from their lives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that, and that really resonates with me. Especially with the past year and
Yes.
everything. And I just think that's beautiful that you were able to make those connections and find that with your ancestors. I love it. So good. I think that will resonate with the people watching as well. I could talk to you all day, Cheri. I love everything you have to share.
Thank you.
We're gonna direct everybody to your blog and to GenFriends. I know I need to do some binge watching. As I was looking at the titles today, I was like, oh, something with the 1890 census, and it really is a gold mine and fun conversation. Since we can't be together in person, it's fun.
Right. And we've got some really fun panelists. So come on and really fun guests and subscribe. Just subscribe. Yeah. I would appreciate that if you could do that. What a shameless plug. But if you could subscribe, I'm not making anything off of it. It's just a YouTube channel that's just, but it's just
that's
fun.
Another fun way to connect. And
exactly. And that's why we do it. That's why we do it. And we also just have to talk to each other. So, and have fun. We just have a really good time. So
yeah. I love that. And you can feel that when you're watching. It's so fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
So as we're wrapping up, is there anything else you'd like to add? We've covered a lot of interesting and inspiring topics. Anything you'd like to close with?
I just get out there and do it. Just Like I said, if you haven't been doing it for very long, just learn as much as possible and continue learning. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing your research. There's always new things to learn. Just get out there, research, learn how to do it. Make sure you're connecting the right people to your family tree.
Very important.
Yes, make sure you're really looking at those documents and making sure it's your person, so you're not doing research for somebody else. I mean, that's nice of you, but don't add the wrong tree to your tree or the wrong limb to your tree. But just jump in there and let your ancestors guide you, because they will, and they will help you find them because they want to be found. So I would just encourage everybody just to keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. Keep learning and listen for them to help you tell them where they are and where you can find those records. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I was just at the cemetery and my son says, "What are you doing, Mom?" I said, "I'm having a conversation." I can't find anything on this person, so I'm letting him know I need some help. And my son just goes, "Oh," and walks to the car. So I'm waiting because they'll help.
We're kindred spirits. I totally know what you mean. That's fun. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
It's such a treat. And then for those watching, we're at the end of our 21 days. So this experiment is wrapping up. We'll start our new April experiment on the 1st with the gift of connections. But before that, on Friday, we have a Twitter party at noon. That is going to be a lot of fun. Lots of cool prizes. We have a beginning genealogy course, prints, artworks you can use for Mother's Day. So that's at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So everyone should come and join us. And then be sure to check out Cheri's blog and Instagram and all those fun things so we can continue communicating. So, all right. Well, goodbye, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you
again, Cheri.